Well, welcome back to Crossroads. Warmer weather, it is finally time to get out and enjoy some things like cycling. And our friend Michael Matthias is here from Curfman Cyclery to give us a little bit of tips on getting ready for the season. You're hearing people coming in saying, it's time to get out?
Yeah, it's that time of the year. It's getting nice outside. People are getting a little bit of cabin fever from the rough winter, and they're ready to get out on the bike.
They got to get a lot of riding into the next few weeks.
Absolutely.
Well, some of us kind of have old clunkers sitting around. Some of us may want to look for a new one. But let's go over some of the things we need to do before we take it out. Because you're so anxious to ride, you can make some mistakes if you just jump out on it, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's 5 main things you want to check before you get out on the road on your bike. The first one you want to check is the tires.
Okay.
You want to make sure the tires are properly inflated, that they're free of dry rot, and you want to make sure that they're seated properly on the rim.
I always wondered about the properly inflated thing. Is the old kind of pressure test that I'm doing here, is that acceptable, or should we get a gauge out?
It's very vague when you hit the tire. Obviously, if you press it and it presses all the way in, you need to put some air. And, the manufacturers do put information on the side of the tire that informs you of the proper pressure, and the maximum and the minimum.
So even a standard tire gauge that you're going to get at any hardware or auto store will work.
Absolutely.
For these kinds of things. So whatever guide you got there. So tires for sure. Most of us would do that. What's next?
The next thing you want to check is the actual wheel itself. You want to make sure that all the spokes have the correct tension. You want to spin the wheel and make sure that it's not rubbing the brakes. Make sure that the skewers are tight if you have quick release skewers, and make sure that your wheel's not wobbling and that it's secure.
Let me speak for all the people who aren't probably getting great bikes like this. We probably had it stuffed in the garage. and maybe those spokes, you know, we're trying to pull it in the garage with a bunch of other stuff. I'll bet some of us have some bent spokes and we don't know it.
Yeah, so that's definitely something you want to check out for ride quality, comfort, and also safety as well.
Okay.
The third thing you'll want to check would be the chain.
Okay.
You want to make sure that it's properly lubricated, that it's free of dirt, and that it's obviously fully intact. This is not only going to make your ride a lot better, a lot smoother, it's also going to be preventive maintenance for your cassette and for the gears that are touching the chain.
And obvious question, but I'll bet there's some people out there that don't think about this. Is it a special kind of oil that you've got to get for that?
You want to use a lightweight oil that's not going to grab a lot of dirt.
Okay.
They make a lot of synthetic oils. They make a lot of silicone lubricants for chains that are just great. They work great.
So look for something at a bike shop or sporting goods or really just general hardware?
I would recommend looking for something at a bike shop. They're going to be able to recommend exactly what you need, especially for the riding environment, if it's dusty and dry or if it's wet.
I imagine with anything with oil, you're not talking about a lot of money for a lot of gain when it comes to maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, the price of a bottle of lube is going to be probably less than a new chain in a cassette. So.
Okay, what else?
Another thing you'll want to check is the shifting.
Okay.
You're going to want to make sure that all the gears are working properly, that your chain's not coming off of the cassette, and that the chain is not being thrown into the spokes.
So just run through all of them,
Absolutely.
Ride around the neighborhood, see what the cyclery and the shifting is like.
You want to make sure that it's shifting smoothly and correctly and that your derailleurs are working properly. The cables do stretch out over time, so it's something that you do have to maintain.
Okay. And?
Another thing you want to check is just to make sure that the bike is straight. Make sure that everything's good and tight. Make sure your crank arms are tight. Make sure that the pedals are on there and they're not going to fly off on you. That's really mostly for safety. You don't want to be riding down the road and have a part come off, especially if someone's behind you. You also want to make sure that you're comfortable on the bike and that you feel safe on the bike. If the bike's too large for you, you can do some damage to your legs if you ride too far. If the seat's too low, you can also do some damage to your legs.
I was going to say that's something that people don't think a lot about, is probably getting that seat just right and working it with the leg length you've got. People tend to, I speak for the layperson, not the expert biker, they tend to just go with what's there and they get used to it, or they don't want to stretch their legs out that far. That's not only probably a safety concern, you're not getting maximum exercise.
Yeah, and if people notice, even on the most basic of bikes, there is an endless number of adjustments with the stem, with the seat height, with the reach, the angle of the stem, and we recommend you take full advantage of that and be as comfortable as you can on your bike.
Okay, and I would imagine most of this also is going to be pretty standard tool sets will get you at this, socket sets, decent pair of pliers, not a pair of pliers, tools, but wrenches and things.
The only thing you really want to make sure is you want to watch the torque on things. You don't want to strip things out. You don't want to tighten them too tight. We really recommend you bring them into a bike shop, especially if it's a higher performance bike.
And no one that bought a bike this nice would do this, but we'll just say for all the lay people again, get it out of the rain.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it
Then
dry.
you're going to have a lot of problems.
If you have it in the rain, make sure that you wipe it off and get the moisture out. Luckily, a lot of the newer bikes are aluminum, so you don't have as much to worry about, but a lot of the components are steel and they rust pretty easy.
Very quickly, just in 10 or 15 seconds. Still pretty safe to ride. We still have some windy days and some rainy days. Just be smart about what you're doing.
Yeah. If it's a little bit rainy out, you might want to let a little bit of pressure out of your tires just to give you a little bit of better grip, same as you would do with a car in the winter. You also want to make sure that you're visible on the road. You want to ride with traffic so that the cars can see you from behind. You want to make sure that you have reflective accessories. We recommend taillights, headlights. I personally don't think you could have too many lights. It's really dangerous. I would rather have 100 lights than get hit by a car.
And also, Curfman Cyclery is a great place to get a checkup, right?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
a new bike.
Yeah, either one.
Well, it's a fun and relatively affordable way to enjoy the outdoors, and we certainly need to enjoy the outdoors now after the brutal winter of 2014. Michael Mathias, thank you from
Hey,
Curfman Cyclery.
thank you.
Get out and enjoy the fun.